So to truly understand the scope of this, we have to take it back to 2015 when we moved in. Nothing too, out there happened at first. There were a few things disclosed to us, which we will get into later, but nothing out of the ordinary. Just certain things going missing here and there, but I'm forgetful and I just kind of chalked it up to that. Fast forward a couple of weeks. It's important to note that prior to this next part, my dog had a perfectly good bill of health. His name was Walter. He was a Husky Chow Shepherd mix, and one day I took him to the gas station and brought him back home. That was not abnormal. He loved to go riding with me wherever I went, so that's what we did. And when I got back home, 15 minutes later, he starts acting very weird, bumping into things, obviously weak in the legs. I rush him to the vet. $5,000 later and 3 overnight stays, no answers. His heart rate was fine. Everything they did checked out. They could not find anything wrong with him, but obviously he was in some sort of distress. So we take him home, and in less than 24 hours from taking him home, he is up in the bathroom adjacent to the sleep paralysis room, and his tongue is now purple. So at this point, he's not getting enough oxygen. It is obviously time to get him to the vet. We take him to the emergency after hours care, and he died within 15 minutes of getting there. In my arms, I literally watched his pupils expand right in front of me. I don't wish that on any person in this world to have to go through that. So fast forward somewhere between 2 and 3 weeks after that, my wife and I were expecting a child. She was almost 7 months pregnant at the time. And on the night that we disclosed to all our non-immediate family members that we are expecting, she started having some things happen. We rushed to the hospital, and they discover there is no heartbeat, and she needs to have an emergency DNC. Somewhere between 2 and 3 weeks later, I apologize for not knowing the exact date. I do remember July 23rd, 2015 being the date of the DNC, but this next part, I can't quite remember. Everything was kind of fuzzy. My wife had a cat. She was about 18 years old, so she was pretty old, but there was no signs of any distress prior to this happening. But one day she was just not right. Obviously, something is wrong. We take her to the vet, and she's been going through acute kidney failure for quite some time, but she showed none of the signs prior to a single day where it was like, okay, you're good, and she's not good. She's got to go in now, and she ended up passing away within 24 hours of that. It was at this point, we kind of take a step back. We start thinking about things that we've switched up in the past few months, and the only thing we can think of is, we just moved in here. Maybe there's something going on with the water. Maybe there's something going on with a mold or bacteria in here that's causing poor health issues, and that's the reason that all this stuff has been going on. So we test for anything you can possibly imagine under the sun that would cause any of these things to just happen, and nothing came back. Everything checked out. The water was fine. There was no mold. There were no toxic gases in the house itself, so everything was good. We kind of just chalked it up to when it rains, it pours, and we tried our best over the next few months to move on. So about 6 months has gone by, and I actually have not been up into this room yet. We have had no need to since we moved in, and we figured, hey, let's check it out. Maybe we throw a few things up here. And when I open up the door, to my surprise, previous owner's husband passed away in this house, and when he did, it became too much maintenance for her, so she sold and moved on. These are some of the things that were left behind. Now, this one was in place of the case that was on top in the previous shot. We keep this case and all the guitars down here for obvious reasons with what you're about to see. This is a 1940s Martin D. Correct me if I am wrong in the comments, people, but I think this is the second oldest of the bunch. Now, this next one is a 1980s Martin. There's a heck of a lot more scratching on the pickguard. Looks like it was played the most out of the three. This last one is the holy grail of the three. A 1930s Martin slide. Looks like it's never even been played. Contacted this lady several times and told her what the value of them was, and she still said she wanted absolutely nothing to do with those things. So it's already pretty weird that she wants nothing to do with the guitars, but add in the fact that we also find boxes of stuff like this up in this area and around the house as well. Skulls and hip bones. You've got bits of trees. You've got more dead bugs. Now, it wasn't at this point that all hell just broke loose and things just drastically changed. It wasn't for a good few months that I started to have sleep paralysis episodes, eventually leading to clusters of them every other night, up until the point where we had to relocate to Virginia for a 2-year period. We had our child Abigail at this point, and when we moved back home 2 years later, we started to get notifications on our phone like this. So the first object that you guys just saw was a throttle from an old German vessel that no longer exists. That being said, there is a mechanism in there that I guess, could cause the lever to move like that during certain situations where you have high drops or high increases in moisture and temperature and things of that nature. However, I'm not thoroughly convinced that it would cause something of that velocity to happen with that mechanism. That also being said, I cannot explain how the horse just moves on its own. It wasn't long before we started having things like this happen while we were home. In this situation, I was in the master bedroom getting changed, and my daughter activated one of the motion sensors in the living area. Now, around the time that these things started to happen, my wife and Abigail went down to South Carolina to see the in-laws, as they didn't get to see them that much over that 2-year period that we were in Virginia, so they spent some time down there. Around that time, I started to have things like this start to happen. Yo. Why the... Yo. Okay. Yeah. No. Yo. It was at this point I left my phone and I did not come back the next day until daylight.